There is a man in the room who notices everything. He is not the loudest voice. He is not standing in the center, performing for attention, chasing laughs, or needing eyes fixed on him. He is not checking his phone every half-minute, afraid of silence, afraid of disconnection. Instead, he sits calmly within the emptiness. He speaks little. He watches closely. And if you truly observe him, you will sense something uncomfortable. He does not need to be there. He does not depend on the group. He does not seek approval. And because he needs none of it, he cannot be controlled by it. Society has labels for this man. They call him a loner. They call him antisocial. They call him introverted, strange, or flawed. But systems of power, advertisers, politicians, manipulators, use a different word. Dangerous. They fear him. Because a man who is comfortable alone is a man who has control over his own mind. And a man who controls his mind cannot be trapped by cheap dopamine hits or artificial fears used to guide the masses. Most people collapse when left alone. Silence overwhelms them. Panic sets in. They feel pressure closing in. They grab the remote, the bottle, the phone, anything to drown out their own thoughts. But the dangerous man enters solitude as if stepping into his own throne room. Today, we will carefully examine your perception of reality. We will break down why you were trained to fear being alone, why the system is threatened by your solitude, and how accepting emptiness shifts you from a passive observer into an active participant. This is not about loneliness. Loneliness is a condition. Solitude is a method. Stay with me, and by the end you will understand why the most powerful men in history did not merely accept isolation, they required it. Let's begin with the lie. The message you have heard since childhood. Humans are social animals. You have heard it endlessly. It justifies everything. It explains force group projects. It explains open offices. It explains why eating alone draws looks of sympathy. You are told that being alone equals suffering, that isolation is punishment. In prisons, solitary confinement is considered one of the harshest penalties. Why? Because for the average untrained mind, being alone with itself feels unbearable. But ask yourself, who gains from your fear of solitude? Consider the economy. A man content on his own needs very little. He does not need the newest car to impress neighbors. He does not need expensive clothes to belong to a group he does not respect. He does not need overpriced drinks at a club just to feel visible. The economy runs on insecurity. It feeds on your need for acceptance. If you are comfortable with yourself, you are a poor consumer. But this goes beyond money. It is about control. Group behavior is the easiest way to direct people. This is called herding. To control one sheep, you do not restrain it. You frighten the flock and guide them together. The individual follows because it fears being left behind. This is the biological trap. Thousands of years ago, being rejected by the tribe meant death, through hunger or predators. Your brain still carries an ancient alarm system that signals danger when you step away from the group. Society exploits this mechanism. It keeps you trapped in constant social worry. What do they think of me? Do I look right? Did I say something wrong? Why didn't they like my post? These thoughts form the bars of your cage. They keep you obedient. They keep you average. They keep you safe. But the dangerous man recognized the trick. He examined that fear and saw it for what it was, a shadow. In the modern world, leaving the group does not mean death. Disagreeing does not mean starvation. When you realize that fear of solitude is a biological error rather than a real threat, you become invisible to control systems. You become the ghost inside the machine. Look at nature. Watch how prey animals behave. Deer, zebras, sardines. They stay packed together. They make noise. They constantly signal to one another. Their survival strategy is simple. Don't stand out. Now look at predators. Tigers, eagles, bears. They move alone. They move quietly. They do not require group approval. Their strength comes from independence. This is the core difference between the nice guy and the dangerous man. The nice guy behaves like prey. He avoids conflict. He fears upsetting the group. He adjusts his personality to fit every room, not as a strategy, but from fear. He drains his energy managing how others see him. The dangerous man is predatory in focus, not violent, but precise. When you are alone, you conserve energy. You stop leaking power trying to maintain an image. Think about how much energy you lose each day simply by performing. Forced smiles, pointless small talk, agreeing when you don't, laughing at jokes that fall flat. It slowly drains you. When you choose to be alone, that drain stops. You take that energy back and redirect it toward what truly matters. Your purpose, your health, your finances, your mind. This is why certain individuals prefer solitude. It's not because they dislike people. It's because they respect their own strength too much to waste it on empty performance. Machiavelli, often called the father of strategic realism, wrote The Prince while in exile. He was removed from power, pushed out of political life, and sent to live quietly on a farm. He was alone. In that isolation, he did not complain or seek sympathy. He refined his thinking. He studied human behavior with sharp, disciplined focus, insights that remain relevant 5 centuries later. Had he stayed in court, distracted by social events and political games, he would likely have faded into obscurity. Solitude preserved his legacy. Now comes the uncomfortable truth. Most men do not avoid solitude because they are incapable of it, but because they fear it. Blaise Pascal, the French philosopher and mathematician, once said that most human problems arise from the inability to sit quietly alone in a room. Why is that so difficult? Because when the noise ends, reality begins. Remove the distractions, no screens, no conversations, no constant input, and you are left with the one presence you cannot escape, yourself. For many, that encounter is frightening. In silence, suppressed thoughts surface. Forgotten failures return. The distance between who you are and who you know you should be becomes clear. Silence acts like a mirror, clear, unforgiving, and precise, revealing flaws, insecurities, and unresolved tension. This is the void. The average person senses it and panics. They reach for their phone, call someone, turn on a screen. Noise feels safer than honesty. The dangerous individual does the opposite. He remains in the void. He examines it until it loses power. He uses isolation to question himself honestly. Why am I angry? Why do I seek approval from those I don't respect? What do I truly believe, and what have I simply accepted? This process is uncomfortable. It resembles resetting a broken bone. Painful but necessary. Carl Jung described this as shadow work, facing and integrating the hidden parts of the self. This work cannot be done in crowds or conversations. It requires deep silence. Once you confront your inner conflicts alone, external pressures lose their force. A raised voice from a superior carries little weight compared to the dialogue you've had with yourself. Rejection feels smaller after self-acceptance forged in isolation. When you are no longer afraid of your own presence, outside intimidation loses its grip. Even if the world turns away, you remain steady. Now let's move from mindset to method. In psychology, information equals leverage. In any exchange, the one speaking reveals more, while the one listening collects insight. Constant interaction means constant exposure. You reveal desires, fears, and intentions. You become predictable. The person who values solitude functions like a vault. His plans are unclear. His weaknesses remain hidden. This makes him difficult to influence. Consider negotiation. The one who talks excessively often loses. He fills silence out of discomfort, revealing insecurity. The one who stays quiet and accepts pauses controls the exchange. Solitude trains this comfort. Extended time alone recalibrates the mind. Dopamine sensitivity resets. The need for constant stimulation fades. Awareness sharpens. You begin noticing details others miss, subtle expressions, changes in tone, what is left unsaid. While groups focus on noise, the solitary observer reads patterns. This is why the most formidable individuals are often quiet, not withdrawn, but attentive. They gather data while others are distracted. Think of figures like Nikola Tesla or Isaac Newton. Regardless of moral judgment, consider their impact. Years of isolation produced ideas and systems that reshaped reality. Tesla believed the mind functioned best in uninterrupted solitude, where originality could develop without interference. Society promotes collaboration, open spaces, and constant interaction. Often, this pulls exceptional thinking toward average consensus. Truly disruptive ideas, those that redefine systems and create lasting change, are born in quiet environments. If you want to blend in, stay constantly connected. If you want depth and independence, step away. We live in an era of collective thought. Social platforms link minds into one reactive system driven by outrage and conformity. Constant connection replaces original thinking with borrowed reactions. When you disconnect, clarity returns. Have you noticed how stepping away from news and social media changes your perspective? Urgency fades. Anger settles. You realize most manufactured crises have little relevance to your actual life. They exist to capture attention and maintain fear. Solitude breaks that cycle. In separation, you regain control over your thoughts, and with it, your independence. When you step back, you begin to see the system for what it truly is. This is why the loner is labeled unstable, because he does not participate in the shared illusion. If a crowd is staring at a wall, convinced a monster is projected there, and one man turns around to see the projector, the crowd will attack him. They will call him insane. They will call him dangerous. And he is dangerous, but only to the illusion itself. You must understand that attention is the most valuable currency in the world. Trillions of dollars are spent each year to capture it. Algorithms, built by the brightest engineers, are designed to keep you scrolling, watching, engaging, anything to keep you from being alone. Choosing solitude is an act of resistance. It is a direct challenge to the attention economy. It is a statement that your mind belongs to you. Often, men do not choose solitude willingly. They are pushed into it by loss, a breakup, financial collapse, betrayal, or the death of someone close. Their world falls apart, and they are left standing alone in the aftermath. At that point, there are two paths. The first is the victim. He lets isolation consume him. He drinks, withdraws, and repeats his pain until it defines him. Over time, he becomes bitter, filled with regret, and stuck in the past. The second path is the alchemist. The dangerous man uses suffering as fuel. He takes pressure and turns it into progress. Solitude becomes a pressure chamber. Without constant conversation to release emotion, energy builds. The weak break under it. The strong transform it. Anger, grief, and disappointment are redirected into effort, into physical training, focused work, and long-term plans. The most formidable version of a man is one who has lost everything and chosen to continue. He has nothing left to lose, and that makes him free. When you encounter a man who prefers isolation, you often see someone who has rebuilt himself completely. He learned that the crowd did not save him when he was struggling. He did. And once he understands that no one is coming to rescue him, he becomes stronger, not discouraged. Self-reliance replaces dependence. Self-reliance is a threat to any system built on control. Systems depend on your need for authority, institutions, approval, and protection. A man who can maintain his home, sustain himself, think independently, and recover emotionally cannot be easily controlled. He cannot be threatened with poverty because he can live with less. He cannot be threatened with rejection because he is content alone. He becomes an exception. Now consider value, not as philosophy, but as economics. Supply and demand. Scarcity creates worth. Sand is everywhere, so it has little value. Gold is rare and difficult to obtain, which is why it is fought over. Apply this principle to presence. Most men are everywhere. They are always available. In messages, comments, gatherings, and conversations. They respond instantly. They show up early. They are constantly accessible. And because their presence is unlimited, it is undervalued. The man who understands this knows that constant visibility reduces respect. Robert Greene addressed this directly in the 48 Laws of Power. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. When you withdraw, you create space. People are used to noise. Silence draws attention. They begin to wonder where you are, what you are doing, and why you are unavailable. This is the power of absence. By choosing solitude and limiting access, the dangerous man shifts perception. He becomes sought after instead of used. Compare public figures who are constantly visible with those who disappear for long periods. Overexposure makes flaws obvious. Distance creates mystique. When the rare figure returns, presence carries weight. This is the practical advantage of solitude. It is not just about calm or reflection. It is leverage. When you are comfortable being alone, you can leave any negotiation. And the person who can walk away controls the outcome. Need creates weakness. Independence creates strength. If walking away means returning to peace, to stability, to your own space, then you cannot be pressured into bad terms. You assess the offer, recognize the disrespect, and disengage. That ability is power. Finally, we need to challenge another illusion, the idea of rigid social hierarchies. We are told there are leaders and followers, alphas and betas. This simplistic framework traps thinking. Even the so-called leader is still bound to the group. He must constantly protect his status and maintain approval. In that sense, he is still dependent. He must constantly demonstrate his strength. In that sense, he is just as trapped as the beta, only playing a different part. The dangerous man, the loner, is neither alpha nor beta. He is the architect. He does not compete within the system. He operates outside it. While alphas and betas argue over status, offices, and attention, the architect is constructing something of his own. He understands that the hierarchy is an illusion, a structure designed to keep men competing with each other so they never question who benefits from the system itself. Spending time alone removes your attachment to status. Status is a social currency. It only has value if you accept the society that created it. Give someone 1,000,000 units of monopoly money and they are wealthy inside the game. Step away from the board, and it becomes worthless paper. Social status works the same way. The man who prefers solitude steps away from the board entirely. He begins collecting real currency. Skill. Can you actually execute? Understanding. Do you know how the world functions? Ownership. Do you control your time? Stability. Can you rest at night without anxiety? The crowd may label him a sigma in an attempt to categorize him and pull him back into familiar definitions, but he rejects the label. He is not trying to impress. He is trying to be independent. He looks at the popular table and sees anxious people guarding fragile positions, terrified of losing approval. He walks past and chooses his own space. You might ask, but don't humans need connection? Won't isolation lead to misery? This is the paradox. The man who enjoys being alone often has the strongest relationships. The reason is simple. He filters carefully. Most people socialize without restraint. They collect acquaintances the way others collect distractions. They may know hundreds of people, but if they were in trouble at an inconvenient hour, who would respond? Possibly one person. Often none. Their connections are based on convenience, shared workplaces, shared habits, shared locations. These bonds are fragile. The dangerous man sets a high standard for access. Because he values his own company, he will not trade it for shallow, draining, or unhealthy interactions. Anyone who spends time with him must offer more than what he already has in solitude. That standard eliminates most people. As a result, he may have only a few close relationships. But those relationships are solid. They are built on shared values, aligned goals, and mutual respect. They are not about passing time. They are about building something meaningful. When two such individuals meet, recognition is immediate. There is no need for performance or validation. Just acknowledgement. An understanding that both have faced the same silence. From that moment, cooperation forms naturally, often stronger than any group built on appearances. Solitude removes loneliness by removing those who create it. Few experiences are more isolating than being surrounded by people who do not understand you. The dangerous man removes excess. He trims what does not serve growth, and what remains becomes stronger. This path is not presented as an easy one. Choosing solitude carries a cost. The transition is difficult. When you start choosing discipline over distraction, focus over noise, people will react. Some will feel challenged by your change. They may accuse you of arrogance or withdrawal. Others will try to pull you back, not because you failed them, but because your progress highlights their lack of movement. For a time, the silence feels harsh. You may lose relationships. You may spend nights alone questioning your decision. You will see others appearing to enjoy themselves and feel the pull of comparison. This is the test. It asks whether you value freedom more than comfort. Many fail here. They return to what is familiar, regain acceptance, and settle into mediocrity. Those who endure experience a shift. The silence becomes grounding instead of empty. Solitude turns from confinement into protection. Noise loses its appeal. Distraction is revealed for what it is. Once this understanding settles, there is no return to the old mindset. The reward on the other side is independence. Waking up without urgency. Moving through the world without seeking approval. Acting without fear of opinion. Progress becomes steady and internal. External chaos loses its power. When setbacks occur, alternatives already exist. Loss does not collapse identity. Stability comes from within. This is why the path is considered dangerous. It cannot be easily disrupted. It does not depend on permission. History is shaped by individuals who understood this, those who practiced discipline, reflection, and restraint. They recognize that the highest form of power is not dominance over others, but command over oneself. You cannot govern yourself if you keep handing control of your emotions to the crowd. To be dangerous is to be unmanageable, and to be unmanageable, you must be comfortable alone. So let me ask you this. When this video ends, when the screen goes dark and the silence returns to your room, what will you do? Will you feel uneasy? Will you immediately click another video, searching for the next dopamine hit? Will you scroll through the comments to see what everyone else thinks before forming your own view? Or will you pause? Will you remain still? Will you allow the quiet to settle around you? Will you face the dark reflection of the screen and acknowledge the person looking back? The choice is there. The crowd is noisy, but the exit is visible. Step aside. Move away from the line. Enter the quiet. It is calm there. And in that calm, you may finally hear the direction you have been waiting for. If this message resonated with you, understand that this is only what can be shared openly. There are discussions I cannot release publicly. Certain aspects of dark psychology cannot be explored on YouTube without restriction or penalty. The system limits information that challenges passivity because it is built to keep attention distracted. Those ideas exist beyond the public feed. If you are still watching, you already stand apart. Subscribe if you have not. And if you want access to what remains unseen, use the join option and step into the architect level. There you will find exclusive, unrestricted content that examines the deeper layers of human behavior, influence, protection, and shadow work. Most people will not take that step. They prefer what is familiar. That is expected. I will see you there.